Ready to start. So in 1 minute's time, let me take this opportunity to introduce our speaker today. Her name is Geeta Kandia, and she is from CAS. So I've known her for 6 years. She just reminded me it's been 6 years, and she has 16 years experience in IP. So CAS is 22 years old, and they are currently present in 6 countries. So it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Miss Geeta. And not only is she an IT expert, she is also one of those super ultra women. You know, she does things like cycle, God knows where, in the middle of the jungle here and there. And then she does all kinds of athletic things that I would just watch and watch the pictures, and I'm like, okay, good. All right, go ahead, Geeta, take it away.
Thanks, Isa, for the introduction. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us this evening on a very exciting topic. So, as Isa said, I have 16 years experience in this field, and that's why I'm still in this field. I'm really, really passionate about intellectual property. And today, I will be sharing with you what is intellectual property. You know what's interesting, and if we could and we have games. We have a pop quiz with presents to win, thanks to MPC. Do be very interactive. That's the one rule that we have, that everyone has to be interactive. Also, we would like all of you to kind of rename yourself, right? Try to put your brand slash your name. Since we're talking about intellectual property, what is intellectual property? Well, I will be explaining to you what intellectual property is, but one of it is also your brand. So when all of us are in your business, you're actually promoting something. So Isa represents two. Isa is in Mad Cat. Actually, today she represents three because she's also part of MPC. So see, she's renamed herself to Mad Cash. So the reason I've asked this is that's money. We're going to talk about how to make money from your intellectual property assets. So you kind of want to highlight what is it that is your brand, because that's what we're going to talk about, how to make money from your intellectual property assets. One of it is your brand. So I'm going to share my screen. We want it to be interactive. I still have slides because sometimes intellectual property is better shown with all these gamba and explanation. And if you don't understand anything I say, if it's not clear, interrupt me, unmute yourself, and then ask me questions. Yeah, we'll save Q&A towards the end, but I'm really, really flexible to address your questions as and when we go along. Okay, so we're talking about creating value from your intellectual property. With value, we're talking about money. How do you then make money, right? First, it needs to have value. What is intellectual property? To those of you who are joining in for the first time or hearing an IP lawyer speak for the first time, this word, right, intellectual property, can intimidate a lot of people. When I first joined this profession, a lot of people thought I was in the conveyancing field. Oh, okay, so I can rent out places, or can you draft agreements related to my property if I make a sale? And that's because of the word property. Really interesting, because it is related to property, but it's intangible property. So the ones that you can't see, and intellectual, because it's apa yang you keluar dari sini. So whatever you're thinking, your brain kind of thinks a lot of things. You have a lot of ideas. Anything that comes out of your brain and you make something out of it, that's the property of your brain. That's the easiest way to explain this. Now, all of you have intellectual property. It really is. Don't be questioning, oh, am I smart enough to come up with IP for short, yeah? Do I actually have it? My business, for example, Juliana, you're in the fitness industry. Do you have IP? You would. There'll be many things in an fitness industry that has IP. And the best way, right, for you all to do it is benchmark yourself against international standards. Look at Zumba. So Juliana will be doing that. If you look at Zumba, oh my God, how is it that they can actually have a global following? And what is their intellectual property rights? And then you go check out their website. And if you see Zumba has more than one trademark, ada banyak kat sana. So many trademarks are listed on their website, right? So you need to benchmark yourself globally. And then you can see, I definitely have IP in my business. So this is what it is. It's things that come up from your brain, and it is your property. Today, I'll be talking about a bit on what is intellectual property and how do you make money from intellectual property. All of us are in either the service industry or the product industry. It's either one or the other. Sometimes we do both, right? So So for Aiza, for example, she sells products, she builds the apps and she sells it to you. But she can also sell services where it's a service of maintaining that app, maintaining that software. So that's both. So with that, she will have IP assets. Very important, yeah, is here. Ideas, we talked about what's coming up from your brain, right? So what is coming up from our brain? It's ideas. So ideas are any conception existing in the mind, kind of anything that you brainstorm, awareness. Sometimes you come up with ideas on your own. Sometimes you come up with ideas with your friends or with people. So it's a thought, conception, or notion. And that brings me to the first pop quiz, right? So these are example of ideas. New technology, if you're in a technology field. So I know that one of the registrants was from Nano Malaysia. Nano Malaysia always looks at technology. New brands. Juliana will have her own brand. Anja will have her own brand. Taranjit, who sells chutneys, has her own brand. There'll be new brands. And that's things that you affix on your services or your products. Then you have new marketing material, the labeling on your product, anything. If Madcash is producing a software, they'll have their own terms and conditions for the software or written manual. And then new designs if you're coming up with products. These are basically ideas and it's reduced to substance. That means it comes out and you've done something with it. So it comes to the pop quiz, yeah? Which we have a prize for you. So it goes to the first person to answer. Very important, yeah? So we're going to be watching the chat box. Okay, be very quick to answer. Can you sue someone who copies an idea? Yeah, go crazy and type it out in your chat box. If you're putting yes, also say why. Can why? Cannot why? So Diana, well done. You're number one. You put can't. Taranjit also followed through saying can't. So why can't? Why do you think you can't? Sorry, I've moved my slides a bit too fast, but yes. I myself get excited with this pop quiz pula. So why do you think you can? Why do you think you can't? Me trying to go to the chat box and I end up clicking a bunch of other things. Because everyone might have the same idea. That's an interesting concept, Idiana. So anyone else? Anyone else wants to, why can't you sue someone who copies your idea? Anyone else? Isn't an idea important? They always say, right, don't share your idea with people because it's dangerous. They might copy it because no patent. Also, a good answer, Taran. So everyone might have the same idea. Basically, you can't actually identify who came up with the idea first. Can't if no IP. Interesting as well. So you can see many of you are actually saying, no, you can't, right? Majority are saying, no, you can't. Even though the idea is special to you, even though the idea is unique, think about it, right? There's so many ideas that are very special. And it's sad that we can't sue. Actually, it's a trick question. The answer is you cannot sue unless you have confidential agreements in place where you spoke about an idea and someone has breached that confidentiality. Yeah, so sometimes you can sue. So there is times you can sue. Most often you can't. But you know why most often you can't? People don't speak about ideas with like, here, sign this agreement. Okay, I will sue you if you breach this. No one does that. We talk about it in the kopitiam over some teh tarik. Hey, I've got this brilliant idea, right? So we are revealing things sometimes and you can't sue without that agreement of confidentiality or non-disclosure agreement. Who does non-disclosure agreements? Well, a lot of companies do that when they're talking to suppliers, when they're coming up with ideas and they want to execute it, they actually are very serious about non-disclosure agreements. But entrepreneurs, new in business, usually forget this. You can.
Is it true that you cannot actually prosecute someone if you sign an NDA? Is it something that you can take to court?
You can take to court. So what an NDA does, a non-disclosure, it's highly recommended wherever you have something confidential, but it's a deterrent. A very good question, Aiza. So it's a deterrent. For all business owners, very important to know it's a deterrent. You can take them to court in an NDA, a well-drafted NDA. You should also put penalty. Penalty for if you breach this, how much I will sue you for, and you're signing it. So you cannot later on dispute that you're signing, I'll come for you for 100,000 or 200,000. Yeah, so you can, but so it's a deterrent. And the reason I say that is when the information is out in the public, a third party, let's say I speak to Aiza and Aiza breaches this contract and Aiza talks about it to 5 people, I cannot sue that 5 people. I've got no relationship with that 5 people who have gone out and executed my idea. Yeah, I can only sue Aiza. And Aiza, I can sue for, maybe if I stated it in the agreement, I can sue her for a certain amount. But my idea is already leaked. And that is where the value is, you know. So that's why a non-disclosure agreement is a deterrent and not completely prohibitive of keeping that idea confidential.
What if we hear an idea and then 2 years down the line you want to use the idea because you know that company has closed down? Does the idea become like public once somebody has closed down their company?
So that goes to actually, have they reduced their idea to substance? I'll talk about what substance is. Basically, making it concrete, cementing the idea. How do you reduce it to substance? Earlier, okay, you compare this chart, right? This slide here to earlier. I had a very similar slide. So this one, new tech. We look new tech, new brands, new designs and marketing and written material. And when you go here, it's reducing it to substance. The tech becomes patents. The brands become trademarks. Your designs, your very fancy designs becomes industrial designs. Your written material, your artistic work, your slides, whatever it is in terms of copyrights, you have copyrights. So everything earlier was ideas reduced to substance, and your substance is then protected by intellectual property rights. So this is, you have to reduce your ideas to substance. So an example, and that's where participants, please ask as many questions as you can. An example, I speak to Juliana about this great restaurant that I want to open, and it's got an awesome concept. It's got, you know, one of those restaurants where you scream at someone and then you scare them, and then they sit there so that they can be screamed at because it's a concept. I don't know whether you all have heard of this concept, right? So it's a weird concept. Why would you want to be screamed at while you're having a meal? But anyway, that's a great idea. It's a differentiating idea, right? But I don't execute it. Then Juliana goes and executes it. And can I sue her? Goes back to, did I have a non-disclosure agreement? If I didn't, oh my God, it's very difficult. Someone said a very good point just now. How do you know that you didn't come out with the same idea at the same time? That's why ideas are very difficult to claim as your own, because people can coincidentally come up with the same idea. There's no way to prove it. So if I speak about it to Juliana and she goes and does it, I haven't reduced my idea to substance. But if I had opened a restaurant and I branded it certain brands, and she's then copied the layout, she's copied the brand, she's copied the menu, elements of my concept, I can then sue her. Yeah. So I need to reduce it to substance, not just talk about the idea. I need to reduce it to substance. Then I can actually go after the copycat. Also, so this is an example of reducing to substance. It can be various types of intellectual property rights. The main 4 are design, patent, trademark, copyright. Those are the main 4. Trade secrets and confidential information are information that are kept secret in the company. Plant varieties are mixed breed on the plant field, and layout of integrated circuit is the design on the PCB board, the design of semiconductor chips, right? So those are types of intellectual property rights. So when we reduce the substance, it becomes this, right? But also when you have monopoly. You have monopoly when you have them registered. The thing about intellectual property rights, it's granted by each country. Countries collect money. There's a fee. There's an official fee to be paid, and it's collected by the Malaysian IP office in Malaysia, in Indonesia's the Indonesian IP office, and so on. And the government gives you this right for a certain period of time. For brands, it's 10 years. For patents, technology, it's 20 years. And for designs, it's 25 years. For copyright, it's 50 years plus after the person's death. So if you're an artist and you die, it's 50 years after that. That means the family gets to enjoy the rights first. So there's a fixed duration for each type of intellectual property right. Some of you may be wondering why. When I work so hard, why is there a fixed duration? Well, for trademarks, that fixed duration actually pretty means that you own it for life. You know why? Look at Coca-Cola, look at McDonald's, look at KFC. They still own it after 100 years. They just renew it every 10 years. But the interesting concept is for designs and for patents. All countries have a restricted duration. And the rationale behind that is intellectual property laws triggers innovation. If someone had, imagine the person who created computers, the big computers in those days, 1990s, that fat one which you can't even carry, you probably need two people to carry it. If the person who created it had lifetime protection, no one would have bothered improving that invention. So with technology and innovation, the law needs to push people to innovate. And that's why patent law is drafted in that manner. There's push for improvement, and that's why you've seen improvement in the medical field, in the technology field, in various fields. The law pushes it because you only can enjoy it for 20 years. So either you improve your own technology or someone's going to improve it, and they will get the better rights after that. Okay.
Geeta, we have a question. Can you copy other people's ideas if it's not used for profit?
Very good question. So it goes back to, can you copy the person's ideas, right? What do you all think when we talked about, can you copy ideas?
Yeah.
Can, right? If there is no non-disclosure agreement, think about it. So we said ideas can be copied unless you have an agreement. And then you cannot copy if it's two things: reduce to substance, so you make it concrete, or and you gain monopolistic rights, which is what we're talking about. You get it registered in that country that you want to monopolize it and commercialize your invention. So the question goes to, let me go back to it. What was it, Aiza? Can we copy other?
Can we copy other people's ideas if we use it for non-profit, like education purposes?
Okay.
If you're not making money from it.
It goes to ideas can be copied if it's not reduced to substance and there's monopolistic rights, right? So I'm going to take your question in the context that it has been reduced to substance. Okay. The idea has been reduced to substance and you're copying it for education purpose. So if it's technology and you're copying it so that you can actually improve it among students in a university, it is research basis, you can still use it, but the moment you reproduce, so actually I think it's the next slide. Hang on. I'll just quickly go to the next one. This one. Okay, why you want to get it registered? So this really relates to your question. If you want to manufacture the product, use the technology, use the design, and so on, the IP owner has rights for this. But any copycat does not have right for this. So even if you're using for education purpose, only one area of law allows that as a defense. It means the fact that it's a defense, yeah, it means that you're already infringing. It means you're not allowed to, but it is a defense under copyright law. Copyright law is for written work and material and literary written work and artistic work. So that is when you want to actually use it for private education, your own self-learning, not for universities or commercial education, right? Then it's allowed and it's called fair use. Under copyright law, you also can use this kind of information for news. If you want to write about news, the reason behind that is if you're taking a video, I should be allowed to use it for news purpose. If I take a photograph, I should be allowed to disseminate news. So very few types of intellectual property allow it for education purposes. Whereas when talking about brands, if you're using Apple, you're using Google, to teach someone what's the case study, what's the business concept, that means you're not using it as a brand. It so happened like now I'm presenting all these slides to you with this brands, right? But I'm not a computer company that's comparing my product to Apple's or trying to pass off my product as if they're Apple. Can you see? I'm not using it in the brand perspective. So it's a tricky question, but I have to, so when I answer your question, I have to go back into, are we talking about patents? Are we talking about copyright? Are we talking about trademarks? And then I have to analyze it in that context. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. But if the person who asked that question has a very specific need and they are in the education industry, feel free to drop a note in the chat box and I can attend to it later separately because it might need a more in-depth explanation.
Okay, a simpler one. In the fitness industry, like Juliana, when she creates her workout videos, is that her copyright?
Yeah, it is a copyright, but so the question is like, for education purposes, right? So Juliana enjoy her copyright, her video will enjoy copyright. No one can copy that. So no one can take that and reproduce that on their website, pretending that that's their video. They might be able to link it saying that, oh, check out this fitness coach. She's damn cool, right? That is not wrong because they're linking it back to her website. Juliana might actually want that. Say, yes, let's do that, guys. Right? So it's promoting your business. But if they try to pass it off, okay, I'll give you an example. A real life example, this one was a client came to us and they said that their ex-employee has taken a photograph from a project that they had previously done in the construction industry, and they've put the exact photograph in their new website because they started a new company providing the same services. They came to us and said, look at the date. This person was working with us at that time and they've taken our photograph, and we're like, who snapped that photograph? So, right? Because we're going too much in depth, but the creator of an IP right, actually, rule of thumb, they own the rights. So the person that snapped the photograph actually owns right. And he said that, oh no, does that mean that I don't own the right? The employee snapped the photo. Does that mean he can use it in his new company? Actually, you can't, because as an employee, the rights resides back with the employer. So even though he left the company, that was wrong. It's copyright infringement. That photograph actually belongs to the employer, even though the employee snapped it, because he snapped it in the job scope of doing what he was employed to do. So we wrote a letter to the other party, said, remove it, remove that photograph, right? So that is an example of you owning rights, copyright, and being able to stop other people from misusing it. Okay, this is an example. This one is an example of how intellectual property rights plays a role in one product. It plays a few layers of rights. And the reason that any company does this is they build a fence. Okay, you want to copy me? Which part are you going to copy? I will sue you in any angle, right? So trademark is Caratino, the brand that represents this cooking oil. I don't know whether any of you use it, but it's out there in the supermarket. It's very healthy. It is oil extracted from palm oil. So it's cooking oil made from palm oil fruit. This company also has patents because the way they extracted the oil is a very special mechanism and it's extra yield. So they've patented that technology. Then you see the design of the bottle. The bottom is a very nice, unique design, which is shaped like a palm oil fruit. So they've protected the industrial design, right? Copyright is in the label. So behind on this bottle, it's got top 10 reasons they should consume this oil. We should consume this oil. So if anyone copies that, they can also sue that. Because people like to come out with new products and then are not creative on their own, they'll just copy. So they've got pretty much a multi-layered approach to attack anyone who copies them. So what does that do for the business? We're all striving to stay different in the business, right? We're all striving. It's a red ocean market. We're all trying to be like, so let's be blue ocean. This is what intellectual property rights does for them. Makes them stand out and makes them put them out there to say, if anyone copies it, I have angles to make them stop. Another type of rights, this is what we relate to. I know you might not relate to the phone as much because it's ancient, but all mobile phones have an industrial design right. The design of the phone's protected. The brand on the phone's protected, like this Nokia. Patents is the technology. There's various technologies in the phone. All the buttons that you're pressing that gives you a result has got patents around it. And copyright for the software. The software enjoys copyright. The programming language enjoys copyright. And the user interface, the layout design also enjoys copyright. This is interesting. I know none of the registrants are from the pharma company, but you know why I've adduced this? This is how they have used intellectual property rights in a strategy to stay ahead in the marketplace. Viagra has got a patent for the composition of their drugs. They have also gone one step further to protect the design of their drugs, the pill design. And they have registered the trademark Viagra and the color blue for their pills. So look at that. They have so many angles. What I said earlier, patents last 20 years. So when patents last 20 years, they expire after 20 years. Actually, Viagra's patent has expired. So there's a lot of generic drugs in the marketplace. The generic drugs can use the same composition because the patent has expired. But the generic drugs cannot use the industrial design rights, cannot use the trademark rights because that hasn't expired. So that is where a play of intellectual property rights, where you know that one is going to expire, but it's okay because I've marketed and branded my brand so well that people still associate me to this product and they'll still want my brand, not the generic brands. So it's an interplay of intellectual property rights, knowing that one will expire and the other one carries forward the strength of that brand. So the business, and the business can still proceed.
I have a burning question for that one just now.
Okay.
Pfizer. So what happens now with the with the COVID-19? So people have been asking for that formula to be released to the world so that India can, India, China can create more for the world, right? So what's your thoughts on that?
My thoughts is that Pfizer would have invested a lot into the R&D. I don't know how much they actually invested into it. I mean, it's not a startup, so it's already a big company. I understand that part, but the fact that they've invested a lot in the R&D in coming up with it in a short span of time, I think the least they could do is sell it at cost price. At least they make back cost. Yeah, so that would help the whole world. It is as opposed to making profit, and you make profit, then it's a big question mark as you're profiting from people's health. But it's very arguable. It's a tough debate. It's a tough debate because some countries can afford to buy it, right? So maybe helping countries that really can't afford to buy it, either reducing the price or selling it at cost price. But that's a very personal opinion. On the IP side, this is always a debate, Aiza. It's always a debate because it's like, why is it that IP is monopolistic? That doesn't better society. But it's a huge question mark because would any pharma company invest at all in lab testing, in the amount of scientists they need to hire to do what they need to do, if they don't reap the rewards? Who does it? Look at all of us in business. Know how much the initial 5 years is proven to fail, by the way. All of you women and males here who have succeeded past 5 years, well done. The initial 5 years is the biggest testing period. But that's your investment. That's your investment knowing there's rewards at the end of it, right? In 10 years, in 15 years. So it's the same thing with R&D for pharma companies.
All right, thank you, Geeta.
All right. Okay, on to our second pop quiz. The first to answer again, yeah? Aiza, we're keeping track of who answered the other question first,
Yes.
right? Okay. All right. First to answer again, because the questions are not that difficult. So be ready to be the keyboard warrior. How long do trademarks last?
All right.
We've got 20 years. Then we've got 10 years. Nancy Joan, 10 years. Syed, 20 years. Idiana, 20 years. Taranjit, 20 years. I love that all of you are listening because it's really awesome. I also love that all of you are interactive. So thank you so much for being interactive. It makes a Zoom webinar a way more fun. And okay, so I'm going to tell the answer, right? The answer is 10 years. Trademarks.
Right. So Nancy Joan wins it.
Nancy wins it. So it's 10 years. Trademarks are 10 years. Most of you got the duration for patents. Patents is 20 years. So also good on you. You got it right. And I did talk about patents more. So that was also a trick because I knew I was going to be confusing all of you. Trademarks last 10 years. So all of you who are building brands, believe in the fact that it's actually something that's long lasting. You know, it's every 10 years you renew it and you own it for years. Okay, next one. So what consists as trademarks? This will go to very quickly. Anything that can be graphically represented, word mark, device marks, slogans, anything that has an image on it, abstract image, and so on. But what is interesting is the law has caught up with business. And this is actually really interesting because the law catches up with business. Trademarks are basically source of origin. If I see anything, if you see an Apple brand, you know the quality of product that's behind an Apple brand, right? So that's what it is. It's something that indicates where the service or the product originates from. And then me and you as customers trust that brand and you give money out to purchase because you know what you're expecting in return. That's how important branding is and trademarks are. It's the source of origin of the company. What is interesting is the law has caught up with business world. Business started having various other brands, various other things like Soundmark. Okay, y'all can unmute, yeah? Unmute and tell me, Soundmark, when you hear the roar of the lion, what do you think of? What brand do you think of as a roar of the lion?
Lion King?
Good,
filming, movies.
Do you remember what production company that is? Who's that?
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember.
Mayer. Yeah, I know.
Okay, my next slide has it, so I'll show you. Okay, next one. Shape. When you all think of a fizzy drink with a very unique shape, what do you think of?
Coca-Cola?
Correct. Color purple for chocolate.
A
What do
body
you
of a
think?
woman?
Cadbury.
Cadbury.
Cadbury. See, can you see what you've just done? All of you, I'm not even talking about a brand, right? And remember what we said earlier. We said that, oh, it's what can be represented by the word, by the logo, and all that, right? That's the traditional sense. But all we've been talking about is shape, color, and the other one is motion mark, like Microsoft's mark when it moves, or when you open the operating software, that window, the movement of the window towards its final stage, that's a movement mark, motion mark, right? So these are examples of what we talked about. MGM, right? MGM, and then the Coca-Cola bottle and Cadbury. All right, so trademarks can be weak marks and strong marks. So it's very important when you're creating new brands or you have existing brands to analyze whether do I have strong marks or weak marks. Weak marks are descriptive marks, the ones that explain what you do. Strong marks are the ones that don't explain what you do. Okay, for example, Mad Cash. Do you know what they do apart from it might be fintech because it's cash, or it might be a company that gives loan, right? It doesn't tell you very clearly what it does because you don't know what Mad represents. So that's a mark that is suggestive. Suggestive means it kind of tells you it's something to do with money. And Taranjit, yours is Ika. Am I pronouncing it correctly? Okay,
Yeah, correct.
Ika.
Ika's chutney.
Ika's chutney. Ika doesn't say what it is. You don't know whether it's a fitness program, is it a app, is it food. So hers is like invented. You don't know what it is. And the fact that it's a name that doesn't tell us what it is, it's a strong brand. Yeah, an example of a weak brand would be Clean and Clear, Body Shop, Chicken Rice Shop. Those are weak brands. They can strengthen it, of course, with splashing a lot of money. You put a lot of promotion and marketing behind it and educate people that that is a special word, it's a special brand. It's not a generic word, but it's my brand. Yeah. All right. Any questions on this? If not, I'm going to move on. Okay, why branding is important, and branding is a type of intellectual property right. It basically takes you out of a commodity field and puts you in a premium field. Regardless of your business strategy, you might not be priced in a premium way, but it differentiates you from all your competitors out there. Think, for example, all of these products, these are commodities in the olden age, but even IP, what I do, we talk about it about being commodity, we talk about what we do. If there's a lot of people doing it, it's already a commodity. So rice is made special by the brand behind it. Tea, for example, both tea, chicken meat. Ayamas did this way in advance. See, they had a foresight that people who are going to choose things from supermarket, not just go to the market and buy chicken. They did it way beyond this 20-year-old brand, right? Can you see how they thought about it? And Del Monte for banana, right? So, even water is branded. So that's how important branding is. So that's for trademarks. Then you look at patents. Patents are technology protecting products, improvement products or processes and improvement to processes. And then industrial design is the shape of the product. So for example, like the example I gave earlier, the bottle of the cooking oil, and here is a bottle, a drinking bottle, which has grooves. Also, any shape that's unique. Even shoes, a lot of shoes have been protected. Okay, that's what intellectual property is. So I've addressed what is intellectual property. Why is it important? This is what all of you are looking at, right? Today we're talking about how do you create value, new value from intellectual property rights. It really depends. Why is it important? Number one, it creates unique selling points. With unique selling points, you stand out from the marketplace, a crowded marketplace. Second one is when you have a patent pending, an industrial design pending, or you have an R with a circle around it at the end of your trademark, it assists with your marketing efforts. People take your product or your service at a higher value. So you valued it so much that you've gone and protected it, right? That means there's something special about it. So it actually assists your marketing efforts. Also appeals to people's hearts as opposed to minds. And this is usually with design, special, unique designs, and it motivates people to buy the product. You can charge a premium pricing if you choose to when you have a monopolistic right. That's a great thing about having monopolistic rights. Only I can produce this invention. I can produce product or process. And where cost is comparable, sometimes you're competing at cost and you can't increase your price. So if you're competing at the same cost, how do people choose you then? The differentiating factor is the intellectual property right. So how do you monetize it? Now you know why is it important, yeah? I touched on it just now, premium pricing, and I'll give you some example. I have a case study on premium pricing. It's you giving your product a special price, and you'll see this. So be very aware of this on how to make money from intellectual property rights in your daily movements and activity. When you go to the supermarket, when you look at things, think about it. Who are priced premiumly and why? How can they actually charge a higher price? Why am I buying it at a higher price? Think about that. Licensing. Licensing is where you have an intellectual property right. It could be a brand, it could be technology, but you don't want the hassle of running the business. Let's say you've built a business in 20 years' time, you're like, you know what? Let someone else run it. I'll license it to you. Or I don't want to take it to Indonesia. Let someone else do it. I'll license it to you. Use my brand and you run it in Indonesia. So those you giving someone else permission to use your intellectual property rights for ka-ching, money. Of course, you need to earn something, right? You're not going to give it for free. So that's licensing. Franchising is a bit more than licensing. Franchising is where you don't just give the rights to use that brand on a certain product. You tell them how to run the business, A to Z, replicate my business. I'll teach you how to replicate my business and make money from it, but you have to pay me a franchise fee. That is franchising. Cross licensing is an example where I have something and they have something. Let's get together, do business together, and license to each other what we both need. And then don't let anyone else enter this market. So we are two top players in the market. So you can cross license with a competitor and stay ahead of the game. Assignment is sales, selling of the right. This happens in business where the brand is built up to a certain stage and you can sell it and focus on other parts of your business or sell the technology. Or assignment could be you buying it also, right? Buying technology from elsewhere. So those are various ways where you commercialize intellectual property rights. Let's now talk about with case studies. Okay, slowly before that, right? Intellectual property rights should be integrated with business strategy. So very often when I talk about IP rights, I get into a discussion about business strategy. What is your exit plan? What is your long-term plan? What is your 20-year plan? Very difficult to give very good intellectual property advice if it's not gelling in together with your business strategy. So it's not a standalone right. And very important is there is cost, of course, securing intellectual property rights, but it should be treated as an investment, mainly because these rights gives you monopolistic protection, monopolistic rights for a certain duration. So without protection, there's nothing to stop other people from using the invention, and others can use it without your consent, right? So the same thing, yeah. Other parties will wait until you create. The last one is very important. A lot of people ask me, when should I register my trademark? When should I actually look at protecting all my IP rights? Very difficult to say, wait until you create a market, because by then you'll have copycats already. People are just there watching you. So without protection, all risk and cost that you borne, all the years of research, development, testing the market, right? All the testing the market is then taken advantage by a third party. So let's look at case study on commercializing. How do you create value? How do you make money from your IP rights? This is a great example, right, Apple, because they were not the first in market to come out with MP3 products. They already took an existing technology and made it look better. And then they went and registered the design, right? There is some patents because the way they did the whole stop button in that one manner, of course, has some technology behind it in the way it runs. But majority of the reason it sold compared to other MP3 products was because of the designs. And you know what is the strategy here they use is premium pricing. Apple's iPods were not the cheapest. I don't know if you all remember when it first came out. Everyone was talking about it. Oh, my parent got it for me for Christmas. And you then straight away know that, oh, you must be from a well-to-do family, right? That's immediately had the impact of it is premiumly priced. Why is it premiumly priced? They knew they could stop other competitors. And if they had a market share, a monopolistic right, they can then actually charge it for higher and get a bigger monopolistic, bigger share of the pie that they want, that target group. And they went and did the same strategy for the tablets. They were not, Apple is not the first company that came out with the technology behind tablets. It already existed. I actually don't know. I think Samsung created it. But they, of course, made it look better. They had a nicer user interface, and then their home button, they were the only tablet with a home button, one button to bring it back to home. So they had those features, but again, they went and registered the design. So this was Apple's strategy of premium pricing. They're not the cheapest tablet and they're not the cheapest MP3 player. Second case study, this one is, of course, all of us know it, even the guys, because they probably had to buy it for their girlfriends or daughters, is Sanrio. Sanrio is a company, animation company in Japan, and they came up with Hello Kitty. The reason I now talk about it as a case study is because of licensing rights. This is where they use intellectual property rights to the max, you know. So, any of you, by any chance, any of you have done research on Hello Kitty and how they came up with it? Anyone? Then if yes, then just chuck it in the chat box, because then we can hear from you. The body of a woman. Is that Syed? I don't know whether you're answering to this one, but interesting here. The interesting here is this company, Sanrio, what they did is actually they were on a mission to find out what people liked. So they sent their designers into the Japanese public to do research, what people were buying, what were young adults buying, what were kids, teenagers buying. And they found that there was a huge fascination with either dogs or cats. Can you see? They went and did a market research, and then they came back and started designing features of a cartoon that they felt might do really well because of what the public liked. Right? That's the background behind Hello Kitty. It's not just random success. It was well planned success. So they give her a personality, the real name that's Kitty White, and then there's a nickname Hello Kitty, and a birthplace London. It's funny, right? They get hobbies like to play piano and bake cookies, but they don't even give her a mouth, so she can't even eat the cookies that she bakes. So Hello Kitty went on to, let me show you the monetary deal here. Why is it such a big deal? Most of the revenue from Sanrio is from licensing. They license it everywhere on almost everything, right? There's 22,000 types of products in the market. They make $500 million from licensing. So licensing is allowing someone to manufacture a product using your intellectual property rights. So the intellectual property rights that they have here is the name Hello Kitty, the designs, a lot of copyright, because a lot of animation, design of various features. You know, if you all remember Hello Kitty, oh my God, I used to read to my kids Hello Kitty. So I know all the characters. There's so many characters. All of that have intellectual property rights. Yeah. Sanrio sells everything except sharp objects. Thank God they don't sell guns, drugs, and hard alcohol and cigarettes. But yes, so these are type of merchandising that they do. Royalties of 3 to 10% that they charge, merchandising revenue, movie rights, book rights, music ventures, and so on. So that's an example of licensing, even on engine oil, guys. Another one, very much related to home, where we relate most, right? Also a very interesting story. But this case study is on how they use intellectual property rights for franchising. Franchising, as I said earlier, is duplicating your business, the A to Z of your business, duplicating it, teaching someone else to run it. At the same time, you're also allowing them to use your intellectual property rights. So his intellectual property rights, Dato' Nelson, in this case, is Nelson's, that brand itself. Right? He would have others, of course, the design of the signage, the design of the menu, all of that will enjoy copyright. And over time, I won't be surprised now if he has patents as well, because he's expanded so much. So let me explain a bit. The story behind Dato' Nelson, Corn in the Cup, right, is really interesting. This is a true businessman knowing the business world. He used to sell toys in Johor. And then a farmer came and asked him in his toy shop, can I put in a corn machine? And he realized that many people were coming to the shop for the corn and not the toys. Can you see? It's totally following the demand, right? You have to follow your demand, where your market is. And he noticed that corn is seemed to be more of interest to people passing his shop. And he then decided to sell corn. And of course, it's a business that's taken off a lot, but not everyone could have done it. He was creative. He put it into a cup, and he said it's like popcorn, like people eat it from a cup or a bag. And it's even he made it when it's made easy to consume, people will consume. So that's how he started. And his business tab, right, is very much on franchising because he doesn't have very many outlets that he owns himself. He is in 80 plus locations in 16 countries and more than 1,000 outlets. And now he goes into the downstream. He looks at, of course, if you've got that many outlets, where are they getting the corn from? So he's got plantations. Can you imagine this guy at one point owned a toy shop? Now he's got plantations because he has demand for corn, right? And he has also diversified his product line because not everyone wants to buy corn. If a family of 5 comes in, they might have something else. One person might want corn. Why lose out the catchment of 4 other potential purchasers? So he has drinks and he has waffles and he has a bunch of other things because you attract them with the corn and then you get them interested in anything else in your menu. Really interesting concept. But look how he started first. Everyone started small and started somewhere. But he also looked at how can I use intellectual property rights. All right, bringing you to the third pop quiz. Okay, get ready, yeah? Keyboard warriors, get ready to answer. MPC has a prize for you. I talked about ways of making money, monetizing your intellectual property rights. Who is the first who's going to give 2 ways to make money from intellectual property rights? Do you all remember? We talked about it in the case study.
Oh, this is a tough one, Gita. Maybe you can give a clue.
The previous case studies are clues. We talked about something,
Hello
PP
Kitty.
with Apple,
Hello
PP,
Kitty.
yeah, Hello Kitty. We talked about L, and then with Dato Nelson, it was F.
Mhm.
F sounds like a bad word instead. I like this funny shape,
So
color, and
one is
sound.
franchising, right?
Yeah, one is licensing. Nice, Idiana. Number 2 is franchising. So looks like Idiana won 2 prizes, huh?
Yeah.
Way to go, Idiana.
But she was for MPC. Should we disqualify her?
Pity her. Super gung ho. So actually that brings me to the end of this presentation. So I do want to pass the session to Aiza. 3 things to leave you with, and I really hope that you learned is knowing your own intellectual property rights in business, how to go about protecting your IP rights, or the importance of protecting your IP rights and making money from your IP. I do have a promo for everyone tuning in today. If you want us to do a search for you, we can do a free identical trademark search to see whether your brand exists in the Malaysian database, the trademark database, either in Malaysia or one other country in ASEAN. So let us know. You can get my details from Aiza and MPC, and I'll also put my email address in the chat box. And I'm going to pass it on to you, Aiza, for your questions.
All right. So I'm going to open it up. Thank you, Gita. It's always fun to listen to you talk about things that people do. Okay, I'm going to open it up to questions from the floor. Would anyone like to ask a specific question? It's not easy to get an IP lawyer. All right. So who would like to, anybody has a burning question that they would like to ask? Anyone? Okay, I would like to.
Hi, Miss
Sure,
Gita.
Idiana.
Okay,
Our star pupil, Idiana.
sorry, it's an interesting topic. So I think it's the first time for me to heard about intellectual property. When people say about IP, the first come in mind is internet protocol because I have a internet engineering background. So what came in mind is not intellectual property. What first straight come in mind is internet protocol. But the thing is, when I heard about the topic, it's very interesting. But currently, right now, ready to admit lah, saya ni K-popers. So I just want to ask you, because I heard about something about copyright in choreography when K-pop entertainment, when they have a choreography, so people to copy some of the choreography, so people are tend to, oh, this is my choreography. So I want to ask your opinion on, can we have the trademark or copyright on certain choreograph or dancing?
Yeah, very good question, Indiana. Choreography is performance rights. So there is creativity there. There's artistic work. So there is copyright in choreography. So when we talk about it, do they own it? Yes. Copyright is automatically created when they produce it and they publish it. So when they perform a choreographed dance, that's them publishing it. And they own rights. So if there's any copying, it becomes a huge question of how much was copied. If it was 100%, then it's an easy case. But the tricky part about choreography is sometimes people are inspired by certain dancers and they create their own other dance style or dance sequence. Then it's very difficult to say, oh, there's copying. This happens a lot in the music industry as well. You see, there's so many suits going on. I think Ed Sheeran himself has been dragged to court many times, and he said that his songs are inspired by the previous songs. They will then compare the previous music with the music that he created to see whether was there any copying. Was it a melody? Was it the lyrics? Which part was copying and how much was copied? Or was it just a bit that was inspired? So it's a very subjective question, but you're right. You're very spot on in terms of choreography is a type of copyright. So copying it, a substantial copying of it is unlawful.
Okay, so what happens, like say Juliana's fitness video, right? So she does the fitness moves, and then I copy it and I do a video. But of course, I won't be doing it exactly like her because maybe I might not move like her. So would that be copying, or what would that be?
We have to compare how much you've copied, and if you have, see, for example, goes back to you copying is wrong because it's not yours, right? So it's hers. She's the creator. So you are infringing it. Then we go explore. Do you have a defense? Okay, let's say I'm just using it for my kids' party. I'm just making Daniel smile and dance along with me. Then that's a defense of private use. You're doing it for private. It's if it's you have suddenly trying to educate someone on why these moves are structured in this way and there's some science behind it, then it might be for education purpose. So it goes to what defense do you have? And someone earlier said, what if it's not profit? Even if it's not profit, that's not one of defense. That, oh, I'm not making money from it. That's not one of the defense. It doesn't matter. Was there a valid reason for you to use it? And is there a fair use defense? Well, none of the fair use defense says that you have to make money from it. You can still be wrong even if you're not making money from it. Okay, an example I have is we had a client who, for an internal video of a annual dinner, they used music that they did not get rights from. But it's private use, what? It's your own office. You're just having some fun time and maybe cherishing some awards among the team. They would have been fine actually, but they published it on YouTube. Then what? What goes on YouTube? So it's a question of, is it public information? Is it published for the whole world to see? Or was it then only a certain amount of people who saw it? So it's very careful of what you do with information. What purpose are you using it for?
Okay, very good. Okay, I can take the next question. Anybody else would like to ask a question? What is the first step that needs to be taken if you want to franchise your business? How do you know that you're ready to franchise?
Yeah, so the first step that you need to look at is whether you have systems in place. That's the main thing you have to look at, because your intention is to duplicate your business. You need to look at, can I create systems in my business that it's very easy to duplicate, because I need to teach someone else how to run my business, right? That's one thing. The next thing is, if I'm going to duplicate my business, I need to make sure my IP rights are protected. So the moment you're looking at franchising, you're allowing a third party to use your IP rights. No third party wants to take the risk of running any business if they feel that if there's a copycat, you can't sue because this is not a protected brand. or you're going to have difficulty to sue. The moment you have third parties coming in to run your business and you're growing in that manner, it's your responsibility and your accountability to take that intellectual property rights, assess it, and get it protected, because that's going to be multiplied in so many different outlets.
Okay, that's good. So then I have another burning question, like the story of Tea Life and Cha Time, right? So how is it possible that they both have the same product, they both came from the same franchise, and then they split themselves? What
Very,
is
very, very, very controversial question, because this was a fight in court, and it was settled out of court. So we have no judgment
Oh, okay.
to make a decision on, but I can give my opinion on the subject. So Cha Time is a Taiwanese company, and they entered into a franchising license with a franchising agreement with Loop Holdings, I think. Is that what's it called? The local one. And it was based on replicating their business in Malaysia. Of course, that agreement had restrictions on what they can do, which all franchise agreements do, because they don't want the franchisee to go off and do their own things. So one of the restrictions is that you must always buy raw material from me. And as the business was growing, they were wondering how come the business is growing, but the raw material request is not increasing. So they did investigation and felt that the local company was producing their own products without raw materials from their company, the Taiwanese company. They took an action against them, saying that the raw material must be purchased from us. And there was a counterclaim. So even the local company sued the Taiwanese company, because the Taiwanese company, interestingly, came to Malaysia and started selling sachets of Cha Time in supermarkets. So when the sachets of Cha Time being sold in supermarkets, the local company felt it was wronged, because I am paying you a franchise fee. Shouldn't you be selling that sachets through me? As ethically, that would be better. But very interesting, which is why your franchise agreements need to be drafted well. In a franchise contract, they usually separate it. They separate the service of running the business and the supply of products through the retail chain separately. That's in the benefit of the franchisor. Franchisors will want to separate it because they don't want to put all the eggs in one basket. As a franchisee taking a franchise, you would want it both in one basket. So there's also a dispute there. Why are you selling it directly into supermarkets and not coming to me? And they took an action against them, saying that it should be implied in this contract that it should come to me first. Because you then now clash with my business. Why would people come and buy Cha Time and not buy it from the supermarket? So that was a clash. And then, of course, the other clash was that Loop Holdings changed their brand overnight. But wait a minute, it was still the same thing. So it goes into what intellectual property rights was misused, right? Was there trade secrets and all of that? We don't know, because it wasn't a judgment that was finalized in court. It was settled out of court.
Okay. So then when I buy Starbucks in the supermarket, so that Starbucks belongs to the HQ and not to the franchise, right?
Well, Starbucks is an interesting one, because Starbucks only one franchisee in Malaysia, yeah? It's only Berjaya. Starbucks is only Berjaya Group that owns it. 7-Eleven also only one franchisee, which is Berjaya Group. Yeah. Okay. So I think Berjaya might own the drink rights also, selling it in the supermarket. That's what I think it is. I don't think it's Starbucks doing it directly.
Okay. So I have one last question. A famous case a long time ago, McCurry and McDonald's. So why is it wrong for McCurry to use McCurry? Because it's just a nasi kandar place, right? It's not the same business.
So I mean, it's a damn good question, but let me ask you, Aiza, and others. So I'll come to West also shortly. So Aiza, if you're doing Mad Cash, right? And someone else did Mad something else.
Mad Dash. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I never even thought of Mad Dash, but yes, maybe it's a marathon that's called Mad Dash. But I don't want to get into a different industry. I want to stick in the same industry. So let's say Mad Cash and Mad Dash, yes. But Mad Dash is too similar lah. Okay, man, we'll just do it for this sake, Mad Dash. Would you be upset, and why would you be upset?
Okay, it depends how popular I am. If I'm popular and people follow me because I'm popular, because this is the day of social media, right? You want to be copied because you're so popular.
Well, in the fashion, actually, that's really interesting, because in the fashion industry, in the fashion industry, they say that copying is good, because the high street retailers, when they copy the big brand, oh my god, that means my design is so good, it's in the high street. So in the fashion retail, yes, copying is good. But okay, so back to this brand, right? Where is Taran? Taran, what is her brand again?
Eka.
Eka. So I don't know this is there. But yeah, if I use an existing brand, it's easier. But okay, the thing about McCurry and McDonald's is it's in McDonald's interest to put a stop to a lot of brands with the word Mac. And the reason is it's their brand is very strong as it is. It starts diluting a brand when there's Mac something, Mac something. So McDonald's in the history of their existence since they became famous takes an action against Mac Chinese, Mac Wok, Mac Indian. Their volume of precedents in court, right, is humongous. Like it goes on and on because they go all out to stop any Mac something. And it's in their interest because it dilutes a brand when there's Mac so many things. But it's also not fair. It's not fair to other companies that want to use Mac and have no intention to copy McDonald's. Here, in this case, McDonald's and McCurry case was a really interesting case because they say there's intention to copy. There is if McCurry, why is the C big? Why isn't it small? So that means there's a differentiation of Mac and curry, right? Then there's a background of red. If you all know the case well, the signage was red. The word McCurry was in gray. And then then the first court at the High Court said that's copying, and they awarded for McDonald's. In the Court of Appeal, the McCurry won the case because the court said that we can't just compare the marks. You must compare everything. Who's the target market? What is the menu? Is there Mac Idli, Mac Dosa, Mac Roti Canai, all of that, Mac Chutney? If there isn't food products that's called Mac something, it's not copying McDonald's. Also, is it targeting the yuppie crowd? Is there Wi-Fi provided? No. It's Indian food in like what mixed rice. No way is it near to a fast food. So they took all of that into consideration, saying, no one in the public will be confused. Because no one will be confused, this is not copying. So they won at Court of Appeal stage. And then it went to federal court. McDonald's appealed to federal court, but it was thrown out of federal court. Yeah, so it is interesting on the rationale behind why McDonald's is in McDonald's interest to do it, but it's also interesting how the law protects the consumer and business owners that should have the right to run their own business, even though it's slightly similar to the word Mac.
All right, thank you, Geeta. With that, we come to the end of our session. So it's already 5 p.m., 5:01, and that was highly interesting. I think that if you would like to find out more with Geeta, we actually have consultation session through MPC, so you could actually sign up with us and then we'll book her time for you. Excellent. So thank you, everyone. And then please do fill up the feedback form, which is sent in the chat room. So please let us know what you like about the session and how we can improve it. That would be really great. So thank you so much.